All right, Chapter 4, Lesson 2A is compare and order rational numbers. Compare and order rational orders. And your learning target is I know how to compare rational numbers. That's what we're doing today, okay? So let's define what rational numbers. What is rational numbers? A rational number is a number that can be expressed as a fraction, okay? So we could write that as, we could have 0.8 because that can be written as a fraction. We already learned how to do that. That's 8/10, right? We could also put in 1/2. Maybe it could be 1 2/3. Oops. 1 2/3. All of those are numbers that can be written as a fraction. So even like negative 2.2, that can be written as a fraction. Okay, so all of these numbers, all of these are examples of different rational numbers, and you can put whichever ones that you want on there for your examples. A common denominator, we don't need an example for that necessarily. A common denominator is a common multiple of the denominators of two or more fractions. So I guess we could use this example as 1/2, and then 2/6. Well, what's a common multiple of all those? Well, 2 goes into 6, so we could say that the common multiple would be 6, because you could change this to 3/6, and then there's a common denominator for both those fractions. And I think you guys already know that. But then we also have the least common denominator, and the least common denominator is the least common multiple of all of the denominators. Okay, the least common multiple, the LCM of all the denominators. So let's get going on some examples. So example 1 says, determine whether the sentence is greater than or equal to. And so we have these two numbers right here, negative 1 5/6 and negative 1 1/6. Okay, and when we're working with negative numbers, sometimes it's a little confusing of which one is actually larger. So if you need to, why don't we make a number line? Okay, we know 0 is going to be over here, and let's put, so this is 0, this is negative 1, we'll put negative 2 over here. And so let's split, let's look at in between negative 1 and negative 2, and we know that we have 6 parts. That's our denominator, so we're going to cut it into 6 parts. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or do I need one more? If I do, I'll put one in. So we have negative 1 1/6, right? Negative 1 2/6. I'm really getting too tight here. Should have made my number line bigger. Negative 1 3/6. Negative 1 4/6. Negative 1 5/6. We'll say that 2's over here actually, and this is negative 1 that would be negative 2 right here. Sorry. So this is negative 2. And sorry for all that big mess. Okay, so let's look at that though. Negative 1 1/6, that's this point right here, and negative 1 5/6 is this point over here. Okay, and if we try to discuss this, which one is greater? Which one is closer to positive infinity? Well, negative 1 1/6 is, right? So in order to solve this type of a problem, we would just say, well, here we go. Negative 1 5/6 is less than negative 1. Example 2 is determine whether the sentence, again, is less than, greater than, or equal to. And we have the fraction 7/12 and 8/18. So what I know is we've got to find some sort of a common denominator, right? We've got to find something that we can split these two numbers into equally. So to do that, what we're going to do is find the least common denominator between the two. The least common denominator, we define that over above as the least common multiple of the denominators. We need to find the least common denominator that both of these numbers go into. Okay, and if we look at 18 here, we know that 18 times itself, 18 times 2 is 36. We know that 12 also goes into 36 because 12 times 3 is 36. So what we're going to do then is we're going to take 7/12 first, and we're going to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 3. And 7 times 3 is 21/36. And we got to take 8/18ths now. And we're going to multiply both of those, the numerator and the denominator, by 2, because 18 times 2 will give us 36. 8 times 2 is 16. All right, so which number is larger? Well, 16 over 36 or 21 over 36? Well, 21 is larger. That's going to be closer to bringing this fraction to be equal to 1, right? And this is further away. So we know that 21/36 is going to be larger, and because that's the 7/12ths, we have to put the jaws over that way. Okay, we know that 7/12ths are going to be larger than 8/18ths. All right, and now the dreaded word problem, example 3. Let's straighten this out a little bit. In a football game, the quarterback completed 11 out of 19 passes. The next week, he completed 60%. During which game did he complete the greater fraction of his passes? Okay, so we know that we're going to have, we're trying to get it into fractions here. We know that our first fraction is 11 over 19. And we know 60%. Well, what kind of a fraction is 60%? We know that anytime we have a percent, we can put that into a fraction by putting it over 100, right? So we're going to try to compare 60 over 100 to 11 over 19. And we can reduce this fraction. We can cancel a 0 from both sides, and we end up seeing that this would be 3/5, right? So let's change that to 11/19 and 3/5. So here are our two fractions, and what we have to do now is we have to decide which one is going to give the greater fraction, which one is a larger fraction. So we need to find the least common denominator here. And I know that 19 and 5 aren't going to go into it, we don't have a least common multiple really until these two multiply against each other. So what we're going to do then is we're going to take 11 over 19. We're going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by 5. 11 times 5 is 55. 19 times 5, gosh, what's 19 times 5? If I don't know it, then I got to go over here and solve it. 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 1 is 5, plus the 4 is 95. All right, 95. Okay, so now I need to look at 3 over 5. I have to multiply that one by 19 on both sides. And I know then that the denominator is going to be 95. We already solved 19 times 5, but what's 3 times 19? 19, that's a hard one, right? So 19 times 3, 3 times 9 is 27. Add the 2, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So we got 57 over 95. 57 over 95. And if we compare these two fractions, we see that 57 over 95 is indeed larger. Therefore, we know that 3/5 have to be greater. So 11 out of 19 passes is less than 60%. And we solved it. The quarterback did better the next week. The end.